The lawyer's pen froze midair as he looked up at me and asked, "Are you absolutely sure you want to cut your own son out of this house, forever? Because once I said yes, there would be no going back." Welcome to my YouTube channel Olivia Tales, where silence speaks. The first time she called me irrelevant, I thought I had misheard. The word hung in the air like smoke, thin, poisonous, impossible to ignore. It was supposed to be a simple dinner. I had spent the entire day in the kitchen, my hands trembling not from weakness but from anticipation. I had prepared everything my son, Daniel, loved since he was a child: slow-cooked lamb, saffron rice, soft naan brushed with butter, and the kheer he used to beg me for on rainy evenings. I even wore my best sari, the pale blue one Daniel once said made me look like the sky before sunrise. But that was before he married her. Amarit, my daughter-in-law. The doorbell rang at exactly 7:15 p.m. I wiped my hands nervously on my apron and opened the door with a smile that felt too big for my face. Daniel stood there, tall and distant, his arm loosely around Amara's waist. She looked flawless, sharp eyes, perfect makeup, her designer dress hugging her like it had been stitched onto her skin. "Hi, Mom," Daniel said quickly, stepping inside without waiting. Amara followed, her heels clicking against the floor like a countdown. "Oh," she said, glancing around the house, "you haven't changed anything." Her tone made it sound like an accusation. I forced a soft laugh. "I like things the way they are." She didn't reply. Dinner started quietly. Too quietly. The kind of silence that makes every spoon against a plate sound like thunder. I served them carefully, making sure their plates were full. Daniel barely looked up. Amara inspected the food like a critic at a 5-star restaurant. Then she took a bite, paused, and smiled. But not kindly. "This is interesting," she said. My heart skipped. "You do like it?" "It's not that," she replied, setting her spoon down. "It's just very old-fashioned, heavy. People don't eat like this anymore, Liana." She didn't call me Mum. She never did. Daniel cleared his throat. "It's fine, Amara." No, she continued, waving her hand. "I'm just being honest. I think it's important." I nodded slowly, trying to swallow the lump forming in my throat. Of course, honesty is good. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "I just think," she added casually, "that maybe it's time you stopped trying so hard." The room went still. "I don't understand," I said quietly. Amara tilted her head, studying me like I was something she couldn't quite place. "Daniel and I have our own life now, our own tastes, our own standards. You don't need to keep performing like this." Performing? As if my love was a show. Daniel didn't say a word. Not one. That silence hurt more than anything she said. I looked at him, waiting, hopping for even a small defense. But he kept his eyes on his plate. That was when something inside me shifted. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like a door closing. The dinner continued, but I stopped tasting anything. Amara talked about her upcoming trip to Dubai, about her business plans, about the new apartment they were considering, far away from this crowded, outdated neighborhood. Each word felt like a brick being placed between me and my son. Then came the moment. The one I would never forget. Amara set her glass down and said, almost casually, "You know, Daniel and I were talking, and we think it might be best if you sold this house." I blinked. "Sold it?" "Yes," she said smoothly. "It's too big for you, too old, and honestly the money could help us invest in something better, something modern." I stared at her. "This is my home," I said. Daniel finally spoke. "Mom, she's just suggesting." "No," Amara interrupted. "I'm not suggesting, I'm being practical." She leaned forward, her voice lowering. "You're 60, Liana. You should start thinking realistically. You can't manage this place forever." There it was again. That wordless implication. "You are a burden." I felt my fingers tighten around my spoon. "And besides," she added, her lips curling slightly, "what's the point of holding on to something when you're, well, no longer relevant?" This time I didn't mistake it. The word landed exactly as she intended. Irrelevant. Useless. Finished. For a moment I saw myself through her eyes, an old woman clinging to memories, cooking outdated meals in a house that no longer mattered. And then, I remembered something. I slowly set my spoon down. The air in the room shifted. Amara, I said calmly, do you know who bought this house? She frowned slightly. I assume you and your husband. My husband, I corrected softly, before he passed away. She nodded, impatient. Yes, and do you know how we paid for it? She didn't answer. I looked at Daniel. Do you remember? He shifted uncomfortably. Mom, what does this have to do with? Everything, I said. I stood up. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just firmly. This house, I continued, was bought with money I earned, not your father, me. Amara's expression flickered. I worked 2 jobs while raising Daniel, I said. I stitched clothes for neighbors at night. I skipped meals so he could eat better. I sold my jewelry to pay his school fees. Daniel looked up, his face pale. I didn't do it for praise, I added, and I didn't do it to be called relevant. The room was silent. I walked to the cabinet and pulled out a small folder. My hands were steady now. Inside were documents, old, slightly worn but intact. I placed them on the table in front of Amara. What is this? She asked. Ownership papers, I said. My name, only mine. Her eyes scanned the page. For the first time that evening, she looked uncertain. I have already made arrangements, I continued. Daniel frowned. Arrangements for what? I met his eyes. For my future. I took a breath. I've decided to donate this house. The words dropped like thunder. To a women's shelter, I added. It will become a home for women who have nowhere else to go. Amara's mouth opened slightly. Daniel stood up. Mom, you can't be serious. I am, I said calmly. You wanted practicality, Amara, I continued, turning to her. This is it. Her voice sharpened. And what about Daniel? This is his inheritance. I smiled faintly. No, I said, it is. The truth hit harder than any insult. You see, I went on, my voice steady but firm, relevance isn't something others give you, it's something you choose. I looked directly at her. You called me irrelevant because I don't fit into your world, but my worth was never meant to fit into your standards. Amara said nothing. For once she had no words. I turned to Daniel. I gave you everything I had, I said softly, but I will not spend the rest of my life proving that I still matter. His eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in a long time. Shame. Mom, I didn't mean. I know, I said gently, that's the problem. I picked up the empty plates and walked toward the kitchen. Not as a servant. Not as someone seeking approval. But as someone who had finally remembered her own worth. Behind me, the silence was no longer heavy. It was final. That night after they left, I sat alone in the living room. The same room where Daniel had taken his first steps. Where my husband had laughed until tears filled his eyes. Where I had spent years believing that love meant enduring everything quietly. I looked around. For the first time in a long time. I didn't feel small. A week later the papers were signed. The house was no longer just mine. It was something bigger. Something meaningful. And as for Daniel and Amara, they didn't come back. Not immediately. But that was all right. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting. Moral of the story. Respect is not owed to you because of age, but neither does age diminish your worth. Never allow anyone, not even family, to define your value. The moment you reclaim your dignity is the moment you truly take control of your life.